Anytime we have a conversation about culture, we have to consider the impact of media and entertainment. Now, often on this show, we talk about media and have various folks on who can address that for us. But one of the areas I think we sometimes miss is that of entertainment. How does entertainment, whether that is the movies or it's television or the various other forms of entertainment that we enjoy, and there's so many now, how does that impact not only our cultural conversations, but what we believe to be true? How does entertainment change culture? And to help us address that and deal with that today is a great guest. We have Jim Klock with us today. He is a retired police officer. So we start there, and then we move to actor, film production, writer, producer, director. And I always wonder how folks go from point A to point B, from police officer to all of these other things. But Jim, appreciate you coming on with us and helping us deal with this really important but difficult to understand topic and conversation.
Thank you guys very much. It's an honor to be on the show with you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Jim. So,
and just to correct, I'm not actually retired. I did 10 years full time, and I'm still a part-time deputy sheriff with the Stafford County Sheriff's Office, which Mighty Oaks has actually been to help with some of the training that they do with the Sheriff's Office and with our veterans. So it's kind of a cool connection. But I'm still a part-time sworn deputy sheriff working in Stafford, Virginia, mostly on the charitable side. I work directly for the sheriff, so I don't have to do too much. But,
that's perfect.
Just to make sure I'm not giving out. I'm not retired yet.
That's incredible. One of the guys that works with us, in fact, has been
Justin.
Yeah, Justin has. He worked for Stafford County. He doesn't anymore, but that's great. I didn't realize that. That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, Jim, I've actually got to know you a little bit outside of this show, and interesting background that you would do. You start off as a police officer. How do you go from being a police officer to being an actor, director, producer? How did you get into the movie industry? What's the journey there? What's the story there?
Yeah, I'll give you the Reader's Digest version. Really what was, I went to a high school, pretty small, rural Virginia. I didn't have any knowledge of how to pursue acting outside of high school, but I loved cop shows. My dad and I grew up on, Hill Street Blues and then NYPD Blue, Homicide: Life on the Street. So I always had an interest in law enforcement. And so I went into law enforcement. I started very young. I was actually in the police academy at 20. So I couldn't buy my own rounds to go to the range. I had to have even though I was sworn with a issued weapon. But so a few years after being in law enforcement, I went back to college thinking I was going to get my criminal justice degree. And I took a acting class for like easy credit. And I did my first assignment, and Dr. Brenda Lewis Holmes, who was an incredible theater teacher, pulled me aside and she said, "Have you ever thought about doing this professionally? Because I've been doing this over 20 years. I've never had a student that she thought could do it." And that kind of lit a fire. And so for about the next 7 years, while I was working things like plainclothes, stolen car units, or narcotics, I would be acting on the side. And the way I got into movie production was I knew the acting was a little too slow for me. Like I wasn't built to just sit around and wait for an agent and a call to come and say, "Okay, we audition." So I would go on my days off and read books on film production and script writing, and I watched a lot of documentaries, and so I would make cheat sheets. Chad remembers cheat sheets. So every cop has cheat sheets in their car. And so I would make cheat sheets for production. And so I'd go on sets and I'd be learning like, okay, I know what a second AD does. I know what the sound mixer's doing and all that. And so after 2 years in undercover narcotics, I had an opportunity to go to LA and pursue it more. And so I took a leap of faith. I kind of said to myself, well, I'll give myself 5 years. And if in 5 years, because I had done 10 years at that point, if in 5 years I'm not making a living in the film business, I'll go back and do 15, retire at 50. And at 34, by the grace of God, I was making my living as an actor and filmmaker.
When we talk about culture and we talk about entertainment and how the two work together, there is no question that entertainment has changed and is changing culture. And so much of what we even believe about culture comes from entertainment. So very broadly, and we'll drill down a little bit more, but very broadly, how do you view entertainment's impact on culture, what we're living through collectively right now?
I think in its best form, when it is with good intentions, when it's good storytelling, I think it has an amazing impact, because the number one thing a really good television show or movie can do, or a character in a play, is it gets us to live in someone else's shoes. It gets us to look outside of our life. It opens our vision. So for me, I'm a white guy born in Virginia, middle-class family. I had an amazing mom and dad, had an amazing upbringing. I was raised by women. I had 5 sisters. I go into police work, and I get an opportunity to go work in all African-American neighborhoods. And it was life-changing. It was life-changing for me, because it opened my eyes and it gave me an opportunity to see a life that I wasn't familiar with. I had an African-American partner who was nice enough, Gerald Ford, he's still on the job, Sergeant Ford, and he was nice enough to be patient with me and teach me cultural differences. There's a great, I don't know who it is, but a dear friend of mine, retired Chief Warrant Officer who runs a charity I work with, Vernon Green, he said, if you want to learn cultural differences, be friends with someone outside of your culture.
Yeah, it's good.
And so anyways, when I think about entertainment, when it is really done well, it opens our eyeballs. I want to know what it's like. I'm interested to know what it's like for a family from Mexico who would do anything in their power to get their children to this beautiful, amazing country. I want to know. I don't care about the politics of it. I want to know the story about the man and the woman that would do anything to get that family to a better place, to love their children. See, I know what that love's like. I also want to know what it's like to be a West Virginia coal miner who's lost their entire livelihood because of politics, and what that is like. What I don't think we do well is when we push an agenda. And the moment it goes to propaganda, then we lose a certain sect, right? It's like Chad and I had a conversation about, I like in faith-based movies, but if you go too far into making Christian movies, who are the only people that watch them?
Right.
Yeah, just
Christians.
Yeah.
So how are you really opening up your storytelling? So I think that it's just in the broad scope of thing, I think it's an honorable profession. I think it's an opportunity for us to show love and be inclusive and bring people into a conversation. And I think when it's pushed in the wrong direction, it does the opposite effect, and it pushes people away.
Yeah, I think we need the people from all walks of life right now to be involved in entertainment industry, not just movies, athletes, sports, podcasting,
right.
Just to be able to share with others a different perspective. And that's where, our free speech is so important. And that's why it's scary to me seeing some of the mainstream media that has become less journalism, more political activism, and really having an agenda, like you said, and stifling people's speech, really closing people's point of view. And so I think it's important for people to get involved in entertainment and to share, especially people from different walks of life, and share those views with others. This year has been a crazy year for everyone. Probably, so many industries are impacted, but one of the industries that was really impacted is the movie industry. I mean, you had actors unions putting restrictions on actors being able to work, people being able to go on sets. Now on the production end of movies, they're not allowing movies to produce like they were before. And then on the distribution end, you can't gather in theaters to watch the movies. So it was hamstrung on both ends. And so I love movies.
Yeah.
I love sitting down watching movies, whether it's in the theater with a bucket of popcorn or in my movie room at home. I love to watch movies, but I've seen everything there is to see now once a movie's produced. So how'd that impact the movie industry, and what's ahead for the movie industry? Where are we with this?
I wanted to take a minute to let our audience know about the work that we do through an incredible veterans nonprofit called the Mighty Oaks Foundation. Many of our nation's warriors struggle with the hardships of military service and reintegration back into civilian life. Often they leave broken homes in their aftermath and comprise one of the most at-risk groups for suicide, with over 20 veterans who take their lives every single day. Mighty Oaks tackles this critical issue with our faith-based, peer-to-peer resiliency and recovery programs offered at no cost to our honored servicemen and women at beautiful ranches across the United States. Mighty Oaks has one of the highest success rates of any program available anywhere. Visit mightyoaksprograms.org to learn more about how you can make a direct impact in the lives of our servicemen and women to help them find a new life purpose through hope in Christ. Again, that's mightyoaksprograms.org. Witnessing the transformation that these men and women go through is absolutely incredible. There are no words to describe seeing warriors restored to the lives they were created to live, changing their legacies for eternity. Your support is needed now more than ever and will ensure that our programs are here for our warriors who are in desperate need. Again, the website is mightyoaksprograms.org.
Well, that's a loaded question, Chad. I think that it's affected us, and I can tell you I've been blessed to make a few films during the pandemic. And, you know, the rules and regulations for everyone to be safe has added an extra expense to making movies. And I was, you know, also very inspired by seeing how many people came together to figure it out so we could go back to making movies. It's really I was just on Blue Bloods in New York City, and I got to say, it was amazing. It was absolutely amazing how well run CBS Viacom is doing that show. Everyone was nice, upbeat. Yeah, you know, you don't have crafty like you used to, and there's little things that you don't. And obviously there's masks and there's mandates. Like I like to hang on set. I'm not an actor that ever goes back to my trailer. I want to be where the action is. So if I'm acting, I want to hang out. Well, you couldn't. You know, you had to go back to your dressing rooms and stuff like that. But to see that it didn't affect the creative and it didn't affect people being kind to each other, I don't know. I've been inspired by it. On the scope of it, you're right. The bigger movies, where are they going to play in order to justify the expense of making those movies? And I think people way above my pay grade are trying to figure that out at the movie studios. I'll tell you that creatively, I think it's going to be a blessing to creatives who are willing and know how to make movies at a cost. Because there's only two ways to fix a problem on a movie set. There's only two ways to get off the X, Chad. With money, okay? With money or with creativity. That's it. Yeah. So I can spend more money to fix a problem, or I can get together creatively. So I think we're seeing a lot of great, young, skilled filmmakers. We're seeing amazing women, amazing people of color getting opportunities now. And it's coming down to, because as those budgets come down, right? I don't need to make as much money on the other side. I don't need to be thinking, well, to make this movie, I've got to make it at 7, which means I've got to make 70, right? Now I can look at it and say, how do I make this movie at 700? Put it out on platforms, it's a content release, or sell it to a licensing deal. I only really need to make 1-1 or 1-2, and I can tell any story I want. And to me, that's exciting. It's scary, right? Because not everybody wants to work and make movies and only make scale, or scale plus 10%. But I think it's really an opportunity that is opening up for people, and we're going to see amazing storytellers. We're going to see amazing movies. You're going to have to work harder to find them, Chad. That's because there's so much content out. So if you love movies, like I'm tired of watching the same thing. I do think you're going to have to open and broaden, all of us broaden up to say, oh, where are some other places I can find some content that are not just Amazon, Netflix, or Hulu? Nothing against Amazon, Hulu, and Netflix. I love all of you. But there is other great content providers. Shudder is a great one for horror that we work with a lot. So yeah, I think that's kind of the roads right now people are going to try to figure out. And if you're all about money, you're all about making big movies and stuff, I think you got some challenging roads ahead of you.
Yeah, I'm seeing, and I'm sure you are too, I'm seeing a lot more series is coming out on some of these streaming platforms. It's just, and I wouldn't have normally watched as much of those before. So the content I'm going for personally is starting to shift to a little bit different now. Watching more documentaries and things like that than I did before. Yeah. There's less movies available, so the menu is changing. But I have to close with this. I got to ask this question: when are we going to see Top Gun 2? We got
they'll if they don't do a monster deal at some point where they figure out a way to make that an in-home event, I think they'll wait until midsummer. They'll see how the vaccines go, and they'll probably try to do a big summer blockbuster depending on the vaccines and stuff like that. A lot of theaters are opening back up. So depending on what state you're in, right?
We're in Texas and we're ready. Send it.
Yeah. The wife and I just went to a movie a couple of weeks ago, and it was so awesome to be back in the theater, and it was super safe. They had the seats. I mean, I felt comfortable. I felt great. I felt for other people. So, but yeah, I would say that they're going to wait and see how the vaccine goes, and they'll try to make it a big summer. But I'll tell you, if they're smart and patient, that movie will everybody and their brother and sister will be going out to see that movie at the right time.
Yeah, I'll go see it twice.
So, so getting back to our topic, because no one really cares about Top Gun, because there's at least one person that won't watch it. But I love what you said about the innovation. One of my favorite kind of Steve Jobs quotes or conversations, he was having his first shareholders meeting when he came back. I think it was in 1993. He came back to Apple, and they had split off divisions. They were doing different things. And he's giving, kind of the rah-rah speech to the team. He said, the answer is not cost cutting. The answer is innovation. We're going to innovate our way out of our current situation. And I think that's exactly what you're talking about. And in every industry, this COVID thing, I think, has really separated out the creatives from the non-creatives. It's innovation is the thing that's carrying the day. And I think it's exactly what you're talking about. And man, that's an exciting time, really.
Yeah. I think so. And I think it is a very exciting time for people who, have a put your head down and go to work mentality. And I think that then if you have a generous heart, if you're someone that wants to bring other people and, provide opportunities for other people to get to live their dreams, I think it's an amazing time because see, money a lot of times keeps us from doing that, right? If I'm making a movie at a certain budget level, it requires me to hire, actors that we would call names or have value, right? So it's a little bit more difficult for me to find that needle in the haystack. There's a great Morgan Freeman quote, and someone told me he was one of the greatest living actors in the world. He goes, no, I'm not. He goes, probably there's a guy better than me working at Starbucks. You just don't know who he is. And I loved it, right? Because it was, me because I'm famous, and nothing against, he is a great actor, one of the best of all times. But what his point was is there's so many other great actors out there. So, I think so. I mean, I got to direct a documentary that I'm very excited about this year. I would have never got to do if it wasn't for the pandemic. Yeah, never. The pandemic, actually, me being at home, it's a topic I'm interested in. The stars aligned, and it's an amazing opportunity within really terrible circumstances.
Yeah, you're right. It's people that's willing to put their head down. I mean, we had the same thing at Jeremy and I run Mighty Oaks Foundation. We work with veterans who are struggling with PTSD and things like that, and the pandemic came, and the military had restrictions. We went through a phase of having some worried about our donors, people were going to donate, and then some of our ranches closed, and so we couldn't get to people physically, so we had to figure out how to do, for a while we did virtual sessions, and then we had to, our programs team, our national programs manager had to get with his team and reassess schedules, and I mean we had to adapt and change. I mean, some people will have a situation like that and just fold, crumble, and it's the people that can be innovative, that are willing to make the change and get the job done, regardless of what's happening around them, are going to people that's going to kind of this maybe for every industry, and it's a pruning.
Yeah, that really is pruning.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, it's not always about being easy. I don't know how it was for you guys when you hit your challenge. I can tell you the day before we were to start shooting this horror film I directed with my host, co-directed. He's my partner in the Interrogation's Gone Wrong. He plays Steele, Jeremy. Yeah. But we co-directed a horror film called Slade. That was a Amazon exclusive that came out in December through Terror Films. And going back to you, Chad, that was an opportunity came to me in July when the distributor called and said, we need a Christmas horror movie to come out this year. Can you turn one around?
Wow. And
so I jumped into it, right, getting things together. Well, the day before we start shooting, I literally feel like I'm having a panic attack. And I've never, I'm healthy. Yeah, I take care of myself. I pray a lot, spend time trying to keep myself mentally tough. But I look at my wife and I said, man, what if someone gets sick? It's all these what ifs. And I called my producing partner on the movie, Daryl, and I said, man, what should we do? I think maybe should we shut this down and all that. And he had to kind of be a voice of reason and say, hey, look, we've done everything we can to keep this skinny. Meaning very few crew members, very few actors. We wrote the script around a very few actors. We have a very safe location. It's easy to socially distance on our location. All we can do is do the best we can, honor everyone that's working on this set, but we've got to take a leap of faith. And he was right. But in that moment, I'll tell you, I was challenged. Because to me, was it easier to say, you know what, it's easier not to play. No one can get hurt if I don't play. But right. I felt God saying people want to work, and here's an opportunity. And let me tell you, it's been a blessing. The movie came out well. It's a fun horror slasher. It doesn't take itself too serious. As the great Eastwood says, take your work serious, not yourself. Yeah. But anyways, just back to your point, Chad, about when the conflict comes, when we all hit at different times, is what made you guys push forward? And that moment, what made you push forward? Well, you're saving lives. Yeah. Mighty Oaks is saving lives. If you don't push forward, there is high cost. The stakes are high.
That's right.
Right? Well, I can also argue by not pushing forward and making that movie, that got people out of their seclusion. Everyone that on that set had been secluded, had been in their apartments for months. Yeah. So, mental health wise, I wouldn't say I was saving lives, but mental health wise, it was an opportunity for people to come and do what they love.
And who would have known that Christmas horror is an actual thing? I mean, I had no idea. We need a Christmas horror film. I had no idea. I wasn't even wow. I'm learning so much.
When it comes to horror, there's everything in horror. Christmas horror, Halloween horror, Valentine horror.
Hey, one last question, and then we'll end. And this is something I've just thought about as you've been talking. The entertainment part of the movie industry is what it should be. It should be entertainment, and it should be telling stories. It should be all of the things that you just said. How do consumers of entertainment, how should they approach that? How should they separate out the propaganda and the political messages and all that? Because, I mean, some people will say, well, you shouldn't watch movies. You shouldn't watch television programs. There's too much propaganda or this or that. I'm not sure that's the answer. How should a wise consumer deal with that?
I think that's a difficult question, right? Because I think that there is elements to, I personally don't like to listen back to Chad's comment about the news. One of my issues with our news situation now is Chad worked narcotics. When I was in narcotics, I had to, if I was going to have an informant, I had to have 3 confirmed incidents to make that person an informant. Okay. I had to verify 3 different pieces of information in order to certify them. Well, we live in a time now, it's like the first person to say it and it's true, and then we figure out whether it's true later. Yeah. So it's very difficult for us to manage media of what's the truth. And so I try to limit news in what I listen to, because 1, I don't know if it's truthful. 2, if it's a lot negative and hate-filled. One thing I do know is hate breeds more hate, love breeds more love. So I really avoid that stuff. So when it comes to being a consumer of movies and TV, I think one is, what is, if you remove even about, oh, this might have some propaganda or this might be a message that maybe is outside of my beliefs, that doesn't necessarily dictate whether I watch something. I sometimes want to be pushed outside of my box. What I do want, though, is as a consumer, I think, is we ask ourselves, is this bringing any value in my life? Right. If this is not bringing any value, if this program is going to make me more angry and more full of hate and more part of some thing that doesn't make me a better husband, it doesn't make me a better friend, doesn't make me a better creator, it doesn't make me a better person, then me as a consumer, I'm saying no to that. That's me. Great. So, but if it's not whether or not I agree or disagree, it's whether or not is it bringing any value in my life that I can learn, grow, be better, love more, be more kind, be more generous. That's what I'm interested in. But that I can only say that from my standpoint as a consumer. That's what I do.
That's a great principle for any consumption of content, though.
I have a question, kind of digging a little deeper in that, and just kind of curious your opinion on it. So, unfortunately, most people in the entertainment industry would be the opposite of conservatives. It's an unfortunate thing, but it's a fact. Most people in Hollywood would be considered on the left, and pushing social agendas and things like that. And so when you have political differences with most of these actors, should conservatives who are like fighting for things like, let's say, a pro-life, like You have like a pro-life person like myself, believes so deeply in the sanctity of life, but then you have a actress or an actor who's made it their platform to be, pro-choice and fighting for, women's productive rights, and against everything that I stand for. I mean, shit, as a consumer, as I go to the theater, say, well, I'm not going to watch that movie because of that person, or should I say, just, well, I care less what they do personally. It's entertainment.
I don't, and I'm not really a very political person. I'm a man of faith, and I try to be the best human being I can be to anyone. So I don't get too political when it comes to business, being in the entertainment business or anything like that. I can tell you this: I love God, I love our military, I love our first responders, and I think we live in an amazing country that's in that protection provided by amazing men and women like you, Chad, who provide that for us and have served. So for me, I always go back to you specifically, and men and women like you have fought so people could have difference of opinions. So I don't let it bother me too much. If someone is now, if someone's hateful, that's when I draw the line.
Sure.
If you're hateful, or you're moving lies, or you're just being mean to people, because I became a policeman truly because I can't stand bullies, and to this day I can't stand bullies.
Yeah.
And there is bullying happening on social media now. There's bullying happening across platforms, and I don't like it. So for me, it doesn't. I won't not watch something if it's got someone that has a very different idea of right or wrong necessarily, or whatever the belief is. But if you're mean and hateful, and I don't think you're a high quality person, I don't think you have character and integrity, then I go. I can tell you, there's a lot of stuff. Movie stars specifically come across a certain way, right? But when you get to work with them and know them, you often see a different side.
Yeah.
You see a different side when you're on set and you're just working. It's very blue collar. It's very much just, hey, we got to get this work done. You're playing that part, I'm playing this part, that type of stuff. And truly, that's why I love, Keanu Reeves is by far one of the most amazing people I've ever worked with and known. I get to call a friend. But that's what makes him special. Is he has a hard hat, carrying my lunchbox to work attitude. He treats everyone good. Everyone. And so Keanu might be far different than me in some ideas he has about things. I don't know. I've never had conversations about that with him, and he stays kind of secret. However, it would never stop me from watching his movies, because I've seen him treat people so well.
Yeah.
That's a good answer. I like
and that's
that.
why he has the appeal he does.
Yeah.
Man, Jim, we could talk.
I like that.
Probably talk all day on this.
Yeah.
Appreciate you. This is such a difficult thing for people on the outside to navigate. So really appreciate you helping us with this. Where can people find out more about you, follow you, not only the work you do, but kind of your thoughts on what's going on in the world?
Well, my website's just jimklock.com. I keep that updated with new movies and different things I have in the works. Like I said, Slade just came out. I'll be in Underground Railroad, the new Barry Jenkins series. That's an Amazon show that I'm very happy and very honored to be a part of. I'll be guest starring on Blue Bloods this Friday night.
Nice.
And I have a few movies in the pipeline. Be on the lookout for a documentary. I can't say the name right now, but I'll text you, Chad, later. But documentary. As far as my social media stuff, I'm on Instagram and Twitter and stuff. But I don't. To be honest with you, I try to push love. I try to push inspiration. I try to push encouragement with that. I gave a shout out to my brother Chad and his book the other day, because he was nice enough to send me his book. But it's just Jim Klock on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook.
Awesome, man.
Awesome, man.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. It was an honor. Thank you so much. God bless.